Welcome to day 17. We're counting on, and I believe every step you've taken so far adds up to what you need to learn, what you need to know, and how you need to reposition yourself in order for you to um, get better with your life and achieve more, as it were. Today, we're going to be focusing on productivity. We want to look at productivity. Don't forget, throughout this week, we are observing and analyzing how we can assess opportunities and maximize those opportunities. So, one of the ways by which you can maximize opportunities are through your productivity, right? So, we're going to be looking at the concept of productivity and what are those hacks you can lay hands on for you to maximize opportunities. An opportunity can come in terms of efficiency, it can come in terms of the results, the outcomes, it can come in terms of problems you're solving, meaning solution you're providing. Opportunities can come in form of um, your elevation, promotion. So it can come in different ways, but the channel through which these can be crystallized, these can be revealed is productivity. And that's why it's important that we look at it. In this part of the world, in our own economy, one of the things that we don't lay emphasis on has to do with productivity. And that's why a lot of things steal away our time, starting from traffic, the commuting time, how long we spend commuting from one location to the other. Of course, the way we engage in the industries or generally in the economic markets is just appalling. How much time we waste on frivolities and engaging in things that are not productive, and generally the kind of value people place on service delivery. So all of these talk around productivity, and I remember about 5 years ago, I wanted, to really know what this is all about. When you're talking about productivity. So I joined the institute here in Nigeria, and I see that it's just the same narrative everywhere, across all our professional institution. But that's not the direction of the conversation today. I'm not here to critique or review the activities of this institution, who's supposed to be the custodian of the body of knowledge, in promoting uh, these different concepts, of which productivity is one. So let's look at what the meaning of productivity is. There's something there's another book I'm going to give you today. Please, if I forget, please make sure you remind me. There's a book I'm also going to give you today, which you're going to read. When I came across the book, it was one of the books that I read and were given when I did my executive MBA years back. And since I read that book, my life has never remained the same. So I want to believe the same impact is what you're going to have if you go through the book, right? So at the end of the session today, I'll share the book with you and make sure you go through it. Okay. Actually, two books, but one is what I'll be emphasizing as we're journey on today. But the other one is going to be part of the uh, assessment that you will do, the assignment, sorry, not assessment, the assignment you're going to do, and it has to do with habit management. So I'm going to talk on it. I just put out the book now, just to mention the title to you. It's Smart, Smarter, Faster, Better. I don't know if you have heard about it. Smarter, Faster, Better by Charles Duhigg. It's one of the books we reviewed in my studies. So, what exactly is productivity? We are talking about productivity. What does it mean? Productivity. What does it mean? I'm sure it's one of those common words you will hear in marketplace. You have to be productive. If you are not productive, I'll fire you, or you'll be fired. Or it's unproductivity is synonymous to insubordination. You hear all these things around in the marketplace, in your office, in your team. You hear it on projects. You just have to be productive. And sometimes you want to also take account of how you manage your time on a daily basis in view of productivity, right? Maybe as you are shutting down your day around this hour on a daily basis, you want to also look at your journal, you want to look at your calendar, you want to look at your time block to see how much of those goals and plans, your to-dos, that you're able to execute. So all of these things define the boundaries of the understanding of productivity, right? But for me, what I understand as productivity is what I set before myself this year, which has to do with doing more, right? Productivity means you doing more within the same space of time. I mean, we can't have more than 24 hours, right? So if normally you're supposed to do 10 things within 24 hours, now you doubling that, like using the same 24 hours to achieve 100% increase, right? To achieve 100% increase without any loss in time, without you extending or carrying over to the next day, is what I refer to as productivity. And this require a lot of sacrifice. So I want you to listen carefully, because part of what I've set for myself as my value system is one of the things, or part of what propel or push and power my productivity, right? If you have not gotten to the point whereby you are convinced about the attention you give to time in delivering results or in carrying out your daily chores and daily activities, then it will be very difficult for you to understand what I'm talking about when it comes to productivity, because this is quite different from whatever definition you get out there, even based on the body of knowledge that all these institutions have given you. Sometimes someone will tell you is when you are being paid more that you can do more, right? They will say your productivity is commensurate to your remuneration. I'm sure by now, if you have followed me through all the previous sessions, you know that when you are talking about your purpose, is not necessarily fixed or associated with remuneration. However, it's part of uh, uh, the offshoot, is part of the product, is part of the benefits of you pursuing your purpose, right? So productivity, yes, can be facilitated or can be necessitated by the amount of uh, um, commensurate remuneration you get to what you deliver. However, you can actually approach productivity through the process of paying some kind of level of sacrifices, right? And that's where your value system comes in. We're going to look at this as we talk on. Then, looking at how important productivity is to your life and also to your fulfillment, is as good as you might end up not fulfilling your purpose 100% if you are not inclined towards productivity. If you don't have productivity as part of your mindset, we talk about growth mindset against the fixed mindset. So this is another kind of mindset you need to have, right? You need to have productivity mindset in spite of the condition, in spite of, they will tell you that condition make crayfish bend. Yes, it's true. But that same crayfish, when put in water, will swim, will survive, and will live longer than expected. It's only when you take it out of its environment, its habitat, natural habitat, that the crayfish can be stifled to death, right? So the same thing when it talks about your productivity, the fact that you're working a place where you feel this is where your purpose lies or is part of your journey in fulfilling your purpose, and you are not being paid, I'm sure that I'm going to be shaking some tables right now. You are not being paid, or you are not paid commensurate to what you are doing, or what you're worth, or what your values are, or what your outcomes and your results, your job descriptions, your responsibilities are, or even the uh, uh, basic terms in the marketplace when you look at other people in the same position or role, right? Productivity tells you, the mindset of productivity tells you that you can't compromise because of that situation, because it's a transient situation, right? Because don't forget, what we are narrowing this conversation on about productivity has to do with you seeking opportunity and seizing opportunity. Because it goes that once you change your mindset on your job or on your process of value delivery, outside of productivity, singularly because of the condition that you found yourself, then opportunity become obscure. Opportunity becomes impossible for you to see, for you to seize, and for you to, you know, seize, for you to see in terms of sighting, for you to seek in terms of the motivation to pursue, and also for you to seize in terms of the mindset for you to be able to leverage on the available opportunity. So that's how important it is for you to have this mindset. I've had people, not just only as colleagues, even as workers, people have employed, and because we're going through some kind of transition, we're going through some kind of challenges, and they couldn't just endure the process with us, and they had to pull out. I mean, it's all good. Everybody has decisions to take, but usually I always pity them because they might think they are doing themselves a favor, or they are doing themselves a good by seeking for greener pasture, which sometimes is just in obscurity, is just a mirage, right? There is nothing like greener pasture in reality. Greener pasture is where your purpose is, and you are living right there. How will you explain you living in a desert? You are living in a barren land. You are living in on the mountaintop where practically you can't grow anything or practice anything agriculture, right? And everybody decides to move out of that terrain because it's just logical enough for someone to know that nothing can be produced in this place. But how will you explain if you tarry more enough, as long as you are convinced and you know that this is where your location should be? We've talked about this in the past, in the previous sessions, locating yourself and positioning yourself, right? So how will you explain after a while when opportunity surfaces, when through creativity, through innovation, thinking outside the box, you're able to produce and you're able to bring out result and outcome, and in multiple fold for that matter, from that same barren, from that same mountainous soil and all of that. This is exactly what it means when you're talking about productivity. Productivity is not necessarily sensitive to your environment vis-a-vis your personality, but more to your purpose vis-a-vis your personality to determine your positioning. So those three P's are very important. Your purpose, your personality, then you have your productivity, rather than your price, your purpose, your price to determine your productivity. It's all about your purpose, or more of your purpose, your personality, and then you determine productivity. So let's not mix it. When you focus more on the price, price will always come when productivity is revealed. But if you put price before productivity, usually you change yourself. And many people that end up seeking for greener pasture, I mean, this is not me establishing a principle right here, but I'm just telling you from findings from research. Many people end up, regretting, as it were. So what I'm saying is, as much as you know that it's not about competition, right? The environment, the marketplace, in most cases, the principle that undergird the way things are operated in the marketplace is all around competition, right? Because they believe opportunities are scarce, which is a lie. Opportunities are bound. It's just your sighting and your capacity to seek, and then your level of competencies to seize. So if you don't have these three things, then you can't see any. So it's those that have it that see, and they feel that they are the higher competitor. So that's how things work. So when you go into a marketplace, you position yourself. You don't want to compete. Even in your office where you are currently, you see other people who are always struggling, tussling, stressing, trying to outdo themselves and all of that. No, that's not how to live. And that does not amount to productivity. So you just have to be strategic enough for you to. So eventually, what productivity will end up achieving for you is that you see that you live a stress-free life. Okay, where others are hustling, others are bustling, others are, giving themselves high tension, right? Others are not fulfilled doing their job because they feel that the price tag is not commensurate to the work output or the deliverables. Then they'll quit and seek somewhere else where eventually it's going to plunge them deeper in unfulfillment, right? Or even far away, derailed from fulfillment. So these are some of the things that you need to understand, that productivity position you for. But there are quite a lot of challenges. I've just been able to put out four for you to be able to see. But out of these four, I am going to rule out one, which is what I keep telling you over and over again. I had to put it out for us to be able to have a conversation about the misgiving you see out there, but we just need to establish true what works for me, and you can leverage on that. The first one has to do with procrastination. I'm not going to gloss too much on it because I mentioned this when we did, I think on day 3 or day 4. You can go and watch the video again when we're talking about time management. Procrastination is always the thief of time. And just imagine, just ask yourself, when you set out this morning, when you wanted to go out to go and do something, I mean, you're going to go to work. If you're working remotely, you know those things you need to deliver at work or on your to-do list. Now that the day is over, or now that the day is closing out, have you been able to do all those things? Were you able to do them? Which ones were you able to complete? Which one you did not complete? Why did you not complete those ones? So these are part of the things that you can do to resolve the challenge of procrastination. Sometimes we might have these, uh, uh, um, we might give ourselves undue targets. We might give ourselves too much tax that we cannot bear because of our capacity. That will put a lot of pressure on us and end up becoming an avenue for us to procrastinate. For instance, if you know that your capacity can only take 5 things in a day, why do you have to put yourself on 10 things? Singularly because you want to, impress, or you want to show, or you want to compete with other people that have capacity doing 15 things, right? So you work based on your capacity in order for you to deal with procrastination. And this also has to do with, even when you're setting medium term or long term goals, make sure you have those prioritized tasks in their minimum based on your capacity to do. And if you have grown and developed your capacity, then you can add more. So you start from small and then you grow to big. Don't start from big with little capacity, because you are going to end up procrastinating most of them, right? So that's how to do it. Then to also understand the importance of prioritization, please listen to uh, the previous session on time management. It's very, very important that you understand how to do prioritization. There's even a task or an assignment that I gave you about that, right? That you prioritize your tasks, then doing the Pomodoro technique and all of that. So it's important that you know how to scale your preference, prioritize what you need to do based on their urgency and also based on the level of impact. You want to prioritize what is most urgent. You want to prioritize what has the highest impact, right? So those are the two key things that you will use in order for you to know what you need to put on your to-do list to avoid procrastination. Then multitasking, I'm going to leave it to talk about the last, because that's the one I said I'm ruling out. Then the other one has to do with distraction. Most of us, if not all of us, deal with this on a daily basis. We're in an age of and time of technology where 24 hours has been reduced to 12 hours. 12 hours, I mean, technically is 8 hours for us to work, right? But with technology, that 8 hours has even been reduced again by 50% to 4 hours. So if you go by the norm and the culture in the industry, in the marketplace, you barely have 4 hours for full attention on work on a daily basis without disruption. And you can test this out when you look at how long you spend pressing your phone, giving attention to phone. Either you are receiving call, you are sending text message, you are chatting on WhatsApp or Telegram, or you are watching a video on YouTube. I mean, or you are sending a mail, or you are reading a mail, or you're updating your social media profiles and all of that. Cumulatively will take 50% in the minimum. Some are so terrible that it's even up to about 60, 70%, but in the minimum would take nothing less than 50% of your productive working hour, which is 8 hours in a day. You resume at work by 8 or 9, and then you close by 4 or 5, right? That's about 8 hours minimum that you spend on a daily basis, official hour. So you see that these 4 hours are taken off. Sometimes people are even in high level business meeting and they are still chatting. Yeah, so this is one of the major things that, stifle productivity, that hinders productivity. So you need to guard against it. And it all starts from you creating some kind of barriers. You put some control around yourself. When I tell people about this, I mean, it seems to some people that, oh, this guy was really the problem with you. I mean, I've heard that a lot. If you call me, I mean, I understood this also when I had a study, on productivity many years ago, and I realized that if you do the kind of work that some of us do, you meet a lot of people on a daily basis, you interact with people, chances are that you'll not get it right when it comes to dealing with distractions, right? So what I do is for me to learn communication ethics on phone call. If you call me more than 3 times, in most cases, if you call me more than 3 times, that's the third time your number is going to be blocked. Sometimes there are some people that have some kind of tools on their phone too, so they bypass that third time and then enters into the fourth time. Once it's fourth time, automatically it's blocked and goes into my blacklist on my phone. I intentionally say that, and I keep telling people there is no emergency, there is no critical SOS that will make you. I mean, it is just appalling. Sometimes you pick up your phone having stepped out of a meeting. Maybe you go into a meeting and you put your phone in air mode. I mean, flight mode, or you put it in vibration or in silence and all of that. And before you know what is happening, you just see from one single number, you are seeing 8 missed calls, 10 missed calls. Come on, that alone is disrespectful. And some people don't want to hear those kind of truths. I remember, I mean, was it about 2 weeks ago? I mean, yeah, there was someone that did that kind of stuff to me, and to my other line. I don't know how they got that line because I don't have that protocol on that line. So it's not my official line, my personal line. So the person called, and maybe I pick it up, I saw 6 missed calls. I'm like, what the hell is happening here? I pulled the call through to the person eventually, and what the person was just like, I'm like, you don't do this. As in, this is not just only rude, it's highly disrespectful. Guess what the person was telling me afterward? It was like, where do I come from? As in, this is not very funny, but I'll just imagine the way people are oriented and their mindset. It was like, where do I come from? Am I not a Yoruba? This, and that. I said, please, how does all these questions you are asking me, how did they come to bear in what had happened just now? You're trying to barrage someone with several missed calls. And at the end of the day, all you just want to communicate is you want to check someone, refer you to ask a question. And so sometimes people are like that, and you will meet them in their different shades and forms. I mean, you can't control people's habits and people's behavior or their orientation on the way they communicate, because this can also be a subtle way of distraction to you. When someone keep calling you unnecessarily, or you have some set of workers that are out of job and they're just seeking for opportunities with you too, and they feel that they can mess you up with barrages of calls or messages, sending SOS errand. So you need to ensure that you don't allow all these things, because so there's a way you can create barriers, can create some level of protection, put some protocol on your contacts and all of that. Even when you're going on holiday, there are protocols around emails. You don't necessarily have to receive emails. You can preset your email Outlook and sorry, let your email backend protocol, let it respond in your apps. I mean, so these are all the things that you need to learn. Then you also have lack of time management skill as well. I'm not going to talk about this because all you just need to do is just go and listen to the session on time management. That day 3, I mean day 4, day 5. Go and listen to it. Everything you need to learn about time management. If you're able to develop time management skill using those tools, if not all, at least I shared about is it 4 6 tools. I also posted something in the WhatsApp group as well. So if you lay your hands on any of this and you use them regularly, Pomodoro or you are using your smart goal setting, or you are using any of these things, 135, if you use any of these things repeatedly, practicalize them over a period of time, it will help you to not just only, learn how to do more within the space of time, given time, right? Which will now make me transit into talking about multitasking. You are doing more within the same given time, within the same 8 hours, right? You're not just only working within a set of responsibilities, you are working across different responsibilities without any compromise. That is what a good grip on time management is. After all, it's given. When you're talking about focus, it is given that you cannot focus on two things. This is what the proponent of not multitasking tells you. You cannot focus on two things at the same time. You will not be effective. You are not going to be efficient. But guess what? With the use of technology, with the use of artificial intelligence, with the use of higher data management system, you can leverage on the skill for you to multitask. I'll give you a very practical example of myself. 2 years ago, when I opted out to add more value to myself and learn, I applied to about 3 different universities. And out of the 3 universities, I got admission into 2 at the same time. And guess what? I plunged myself into the 2 universities and I started the journey because it's a self-paced. Okay, one of them is a self-paced learning process. So I had to do pre-courses self-paced before we started the main study. So the self-paced gave me like about 3 months ahead, right? Ahead of the study. So the first 3 months, while I started the other studies, I was doing pre-courses for this other university. So eventually I was running 2 programs at the same time, right? Initially, I was thinking myself, no, this is not possible. I cannot. I cannot. Guess what? After the first 2, 3 months, by the time I was done with the pre-courses, I noticed I've done the first 2, 3 exams from these other programs. And I did very well. I'm like, oh, okay. So what I now needed to do is now to create my priority list. Don't forget, I have these 2 studies. I have my home front. I have my job. I have my business. I have my other social enterprise attention and all of that. So what I did was just to sit down and say, guy, this year, so, these are going to be your priority. You have to cut certain things off. And that was exactly what I did. So when you're talking about multitasking, is a higher level of understanding and the utilization of your prioritization skill. And this is where many people find it very, very difficult. Because it's part of my personality type, I have learned how to say no. This is one of the other skills that will help in prioritization. You learn how to say no. And sometimes learning how to say no will require you to pay huge sacrifice, even to the things that you think you are passionate about or the things you think you have high interest on, right? So I dropped those things, which I feel like they were just ordinary skills on me. I put them aside and delay them, or in other words, you say you defer them, right? I defer those things. Part of it means I'm not going to be going for any social events. Part of it means that if I used to speak with friends for like 5 hours, I'm going to drop it to 1 hour. And some I don't, I just have to totally disconnect because there are some people you will call. You can't just spend 2 minutes, you can't spend 3 minutes, right? And you can't afford not to give them active listening. So those kind of people, I quickly took them off my radar. This one, sorry. Anytime they want to reach out, I'm not just available, right? And whenever, maybe after months, when I now give them attention, I have to explain to them, this is the reason, another one happened today. I'm saying this for you to be able to create a niche for yourself, because sometimes when you go out there and you're trying to take all baggages that the world delivers to you, you will discover that many of these things are not they are not, I don't want to use the word principles, right? Because that will not be very, very correct. But they are not um, I don't want to also use the word global, but there are things that sometimes they are subjective in nature. They are subjective in nature, right? There's a client that's been chasing me. I mean, this is one of my high profile clients. They've been chasing me for like over a week now, right? I got the brief and I just knew that this is not the brief I want to do at this time. And sometimes you have to also be diplomatic in saying no to people, because there are some people that when you say no, they take offense, and the offense doesn't even just degenerate into a conflict. It turns automatically to a war. So you have to use your emotional intelligence, right? For you to be able to discern the emotions and the response that you're most likely going to receive when you're trying to do your prioritization that requires you to say no. So what I did was just to ignore, right? I just ignore. She called the first time, the second time, I just ignored. I mean, and don't forget that why I had the opportunity to do this is because my integrity is not questionable. Don't forget those value systems. So they are going to work for you when you are making this kind of decision and this move, when you are dealing with these challenges, right? So my integrity is not questionable. My trust level is so high that I'm almost indispensable to some of these people, right? That's the truth. There's a level to which you will engage, you will connect, you will network, that you will be almost indispensable, technically indispensable, not because someone else cannot replace you in delivering value, but when they weigh the alternative, is like they just have to forego that alternative and remain and stick with you, right? So it's going to be now on your own terms for you to be able to walk through your priority and the way you prioritize your task. So that's what I did. I mean, I just ignored. In the process, because for like 1 week, when I ignored her, I didn't give her attention, I didn't respond to her, I just went blank. You know what that means? Two things, because it's now mutual. On my home path is because of my priority, which I didn't communicate, intentionally did not communicate, in order to avoid war, because it's not going to be conflict, right? It's going to be war, right? So I avoided it, I ignored it. On her own path is an assumption that, oh, could it be that this guy is sick? Could it be that this guy that is not reachable? Could it be that this guy is, I mean, just thinking negative, but not because of my questionable character, not because of my questionable integrity or lack of trust and all of that, but was just given that kind of impression that, oh, could it be that this guy is out of town? Could it be that he's indisposed? Okay, let me leave him for a few days. After a few days, try again. Okay. So when I was now done today with all my tasks, and the call came in again. I did not even be the one that made the call. I mean, it's a mutual benefit. So she pulled the call through and I picked it up. Do you know that she did not even ask me why I've not picked her call over the past 1 week? I was expecting, because I've already prepared myself. Anytime she calls, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to tell her why I couldn't give her that attention, because I mean, there is a way I'd already prepared myself without lying and without missing words. I was going to sternly and frankly let her know, I mean, you trust me to do this. So can you give me time? That's exactly, because if I'm not organized, I won't be able to have attended to you properly. So I needed to clear my table, deliver other clients' job, blah, 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 and all of that. So that was what I was prepared. Do you know that immediately I picked the call today? The first thing was like, oh, you're supposed to do this. When are we going to start? Blah, 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 blah. I said, now I'm available. We can see tomorrow. And then, I mean, that is how simple it is for you to be able to call the shots on your own terms when you're working through multitasking. So you don't take more than you can bite. You don't take more than you can chew, just to avoid what's it called now, having convulsion. But make sure you pick things you can do per time through prioritization based on your capacity. That is how I navigate through multitasking, and I can deal with different tasks at the same time. I've been seeing several comments in the chat, and let me quickly respond to that before I move on. Dr. Falashade is saying, do I mean consecutively? Yes and no. There are some tasks that you can do consecutively. I mean consecutively. And there are some that you can't do consecutively because of the scale, the shape, and then the level of attention that is required. What I mean by consecutively is, for instance, as you're sending a mail, sometimes I work with two laptops. right? Sometimes I work with two of my phones. I have three phones. So sometimes I just open all my phones, right? And I have, so every day, once I create my to-do list, usually I use Pomodoro because I have a app that schedule all these things for me. Then I use my calendar too, already integrated with the app I use for Pomodoro. So once I create those 5 items I want to do that prioritized, I don't usually make more than 5. Sometimes I scale it down to 3 if I want to take some time to rest on that day. And sometimes I just make it 2 so that I have longer time to rest if I need to retract. But if I'm not retracting, I want to have full work blown out, 5. And those 5, some of them can be done simultaneously. Some that cannot be done simultaneously or consecutively, I'll have to schedule them using my Calendly or using the Pomodoro technique for me to be able to see how to do it. Part of it might be meetings, right? I have to be in a meeting and another meeting overlapping. So I'll have to prioritize this one I can be, that one I can't be. So you can't be, I'm not omnipresent. I can't be in 2 meetings at the same time. The one that is more important, I prioritize it, I stay there. And while I'm in that meeting, if the meeting permits me to attend to other things, I open my laptop, I work, right? There are some meetings I can't do that. I can't work on my laptop. 2 days ago, there was a project my team was supposed to, we're bidding for a project and we're supposed to have delivered it. It was under review, placed on my decks. We're supposed to make submission that particular day, 4 p.m. And 3 o'clock, I have a meeting I'm supposed to be at the airport. I mean, immediately I got to the airport, I opened my laptop and I quickly told everybody in the meeting that I'm with you, I'm following through, I'm taking notes. By the time it gets to my point, I'm going to. So these are part of the ways, when you're talking about multitasking, these are subtle ways by which you can do multitasking without being effective. I mean, less effective without being less efficient. I know some people might think, oh, boy, you're in a meeting, but you're not listening. Again, it depends on the individual and the skill you have, right? I've tried it over and over and over and over again and see where technology also makes sense. Most times when I'm meeting, especially if they are not virtual meetings, I have my tools. That is why when you see me, I go around with all my technology tools, my iPad, my phones, my laptops, the 2 laptops, they are always with me in my car. Because once I go into meetings where I know I need to multitask, I open all these gadgets, right? I have the interpreter, I have the note taker, I have this, I have that, blah, 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 and all of that. So when people ask questions and I respond to them, they will be shocked. They're like, but you're doing something. I say, yeah, I'm following through. And I make important contribution and I hit. So all these things will give you mutual respect, right? And before long, people are now trying to now start practicing my style of doing things. I'm like, no, it's working for me. It may not work for you because you have not built this capacity, you have not built these skills, you have not learned this, you don't have this. There's certain tools you need to have. You don't. So that's how you can bridge the gap of multitasking and you can do more because there are levels that you will get to that you can never cross that level in doing more except you introduce some level of multitasking for you to be able to achieve. The previous years when I told you I did 2 masters, if I haven't done that, I wouldn't have been able to have attained. Maybe I will have spent another extra 1 year pursuing another set of masters, which I did concurrently or consecutively, right? So it's given like that. So I don't know whether that answered the question. The other thing you made comment on, you said is interesting in how the home front fared. Okay, yeah. So regarding home front, so again, this has to do with your skill and also your value system. Oftentimes is about mutuality, right? So if there are things that are going to clash with interest, like you have clash of interest, is good to have conversation about it so that whoever is going to make the sacrifice, there's mutual understanding. And again, it's about priority. There's certain sacrifice either of the parties are going to make that is not going to be in the advantage of the family. It's not going to be in the advantage of the home. So you need to prioritize all these things. And that's why I keep emphasizing about priority. The sacrifice you're going to make that will have a hinge, which sometimes is just going to be self-driven and will have a bitter end result or might cause some kind of negative impact on the home front. You don't want to prioritize that. So it's an holistic prioritization outlook you need to have in order for you to be able to do that. I remember when it got to the point of me doing my final thesis, my dissertation in one of the programs, it was so difficult that I knew I wasn't going to be having more than 3 hours, 3.5 hours sleep throughout almost about 3 months. There is no way I can do it, except I'm not going to graduate, because all my teams, everybody, because it was a virtual team I had to keep at that time to collaborate virtually. I was the only person located in Africa. Every other person are located in time zones like 7 hours minus some 12 hours. I remember the guy in Austria, So I had to work based on high alone within their midst. So we had to look at a central time zone that everybody can comply with. Eventually, I was the one that was at the most receiving end. So eventually, I had just about 3 hours to sleep. By the time I'm about going to sleep, that's when Nigeria is waking up and I have to jump again to the road. So it was a big sacrifice, right? It's a huge sacrifice for 3 good months. Not everybody can make that kind of sacrifice. Some will even tell you, oh, because of that, they're not going to embark on that journey or do that program. But hey, I've done it almost about 3 years now. I'm alive. It's working for me. The degree is part of what is opening doors and opportunities for me. So these are part of the things you need to, once you have done that quick and detailed self-assessment and awareness about yourself, you'll be able to know the kind of sacrifices you can make, the ones you can make, if they are necessarily important and they are priority. Then you have to learn the skill that will enable you to develop the capacity for you to be able to make the sacrifice that is required. Guess what? There is, the bigger the opportunity, the more the demand on sacrifice. The bigger the opportunity, the more, and this work in all ramifications of life. If it's in politics, you are seeking for big office, you are big seeking, you want to become the president of the country, you have big sacrifice to make. But you have to now call the shot on whether you are willing to make the sacrifice, whether the sacrifice is worth it, whether it's in sync with your purpose, whether it's something that you are willing to make, and all of that. So you have to look at the value proposition. You have to look at the how it aligns strictly with your own value system, how it aligns strictly with the identity you want to embrace as you're about to make those sacrifice. So this is the secrets I embrace anytime I'm multitasking. So if you ask me, I'm going to rule this out. If you ask me, I'm going to rule it out because it's not very true. To those that can really walk through it, you can leverage on it. If I didn't tell you this, I will not be helping you on this journey. And that is why I had to include multitasking there, so that when you read in books or you see elsewhere or you listen to people who ferociously, they want to impress on you, never multitask, because you need to be focused. Remind yourself and remember that Bola once told you that this is part of what works for him and make him who he is, right? So I think that should help. Any question? Any question? I'm trying to see the charts in the chat box. Yes, too many tasks, lack of consistency. On days I kill it. Yep. So that's exactly what I want to explain now on the principles. So based on everything I've done, just to summarize, in these 3 principles, before I show you some hacks, there are a lot of hacks, but I'll just be telling you about 4 hacks that I usually prioritize and I lay my hands on. There's also a video I'm going to play for you. If we are still going to seize like about 5 or 6 minutes time, for you to look at, listen to the video. I think they have about 10 hacks there. Some of them are repeated from the 4 hacks I'm going to show you. The first principle has to do with priority. I'm not going to re-emphasize it, but just to re-echo the importance. Priority is what you focused on, not the task itself, because prioritization precedes the task, right? What I mean by the task is you performing the task, because that's what multitasking is all about. It's about the performance, not about the listing or identification of tasks. You necessarily have to identify all the tasks. If they are 20, they are 50, they are 100, identify all, then prioritize and let your orientation be focused. Let your mindset be focused on your priority, right? If you are prioritized 2 to be on the same path. You need to now design and develop how you need to achieve that same stuff. Let me give you another. This one just came to my memory. Do you know that sometimes I remember last year, early last year, when I was using the driver, because I stopped using the driver midway last year, that I'm going to be driving myself for me to be able to increase my productivity. Because unfortunately, most of the drivers I've used, they make me less productive. You see, why what I mean by sacrifice is painful, it's strenuous doing the kind of stuff I do, and you have to drive yourself all the way around, still come down to come and work, go to site, work, climb. Sometimes I climb up and down almost about 6, 7 times, heights. Like yesterday, I was across almost about 10 floors for like over 3 hours. So sometimes you do all this kind of stuff, but yet you have to ensure that you develop that large heart, you develop your muscles, your tenacity has to be high up there for you to be able to defy all these odds, right? So I had to fire the guy, and like, I mean, I'm not paying a driver, I'm not paying a chauffeur in order for me to be able to just plant around. Is basically for me to have a productive time working, but I wasn't getting that result as an outcome. I had to fire the guy. So what I do now is, if I have, for instance, I mean, I'm sure many of you know the problem with navigating through Lagos roads and traffic and all of that. If I have meetings in different locations at the same time and they are high priority, right? High priority. How do I catch up with those meetings? Very, very funny. And it has always, I don't miss word. See, sometimes when you see principles, do you know that principles can be bent? I'm trying to look for ways to use. How many of us have watched or you watch airbenders, all these what's it called now? What's it called? All these super movies, all these superhero movies. You see airbenders, you see Flash, you see fire controller, blah blah blah, and all of that. Do you know that those things, you know, they are imaginary, right? They are fictional, right? They are fictional uh, 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 um, um, portraits, or they are fictional realities. But do you know that those things technically are actually can be real? They can actually work out in reality. Sometimes when I step out and I'm moving, I'm supposed to attend 2 meetings, of course, not clashing, but at close range. Sometimes the divide might even be that you have to travel or commute. All things not being equal, you have to commit for like 2 hours, which technically will tell you that you have to miss the second meeting or the previous meeting. Guess what I will do? I've learned the heart of every nook and cranny of this state. That I know those shortcuts, I know the routes, which normally if I have to use a driver, the driver doesn't know how to navigate through this, or will not even understand urgency and priority, right? So I've learned all these things. If I'm supposed to stay back to hit in the previous meeting, I will not stay back. Immediately the meeting closes, I jet out, boom, I've moved. And I've tried that over and over and over and over and over and over again. Sometimes, for you to understand what I mean by bending time or bending schedules, I prioritize everything, set out. As soon as I want to move like this, something will happen somehow. And like maybe that meeting will be postponed, or the meeting will be rescheduled to a more convenient time. And it won't be because of me. Technically, I don't know how to really portray this thing for you to understand. Talking about priorities. So don't allow these, how should I put it now? The fact that you can only do one thing should limit you. Don't create limitations by this principle of that you can't do more because you have less time. So because of that, you don't want to subscribe to start studying. So you are waiting for that time when you are less busy or you don't have any work. You will never have work. I mean, you will never have any less time to work, except you don't want to grow. If you are growing, you move from being a mid manager to becoming a senior management staff in your office. It means more work, more responsibilities. If you are working at project level, you're now working at program level, managing more than one project. That is more work, more responsibilities. If you are managing one project or you are managing 2 people in your team, and you feel that that time you don't have time to go and study, you don't have the time to do additional things and prioritize other things, at what time? Or even as simple as you going to go and volunteer to work, elsewhere to add value and impact? Is it by the time you now become the senior management staff when you now had to control more team members or you're now managing more projects? Do you think at that time you now have time? So that's how it's important that you need to understand priority and give it that kind of level of attention in such a way that everything in nature can now bend to your favor. Maybe that's the way I should put it. Everything in nature. By the time you now start moving in the direction of your priority, you see that whatever will not favor that priority will bend naturally. Sometimes it will just be like one is having a deja vu. You've seen it, and now everything is now at playing in reality. You move where traffic is supposed to be, you just see that everywhere is cleared. And something that keeps repeating over and over, that's why I call it deja vu. Something that keeps repeating over and over again as a reoccurrence cannot just be ordinary, right? Cannot just be ordinary. So it's not a mistake. And I'm telling you, this thing that I've worked for over 10 years cannot be a mistake. Cannot be a mistake. So understand your focus should be on your priority, nothing else. Don't bother yourself about every other parameters. Just let it be your priority. Then the book I'm going to give you will give you more insight into the importance of working smarter and not harder. It's not about the hard work, like people will say, hard work. No, it's not about the hard work. Sometimes you need to use your EQ, you need to use your IQ, you need to leverage on technology for you to be able to get better results. You know, I mean, in this age and time of using artificial intelligence, now they're even technology is even getting smarter by itself. Look at what China just did by releasing DeepSeek, and also at the same time, Alibaba released, or is he? Yeah, I think it's Alibaba released another one, to complement DeepSeek, Quen Q or something like that, Quen Q 2.0 or thereabout. When you explore all these things, you see that all these things are just, ways to complement, support, enable you to optimize whatever it is that you have prioritized. If you are not engaging those things, there is no way you can do more. There is no way. Then the power of consistency is also very, very important. All these things I'm telling you, I've consistently tried them, I've done them, I'm still doing them over and over and over again for the past over 10 years, over a decade. So it's more than enough for me to set out as principles, because what had worked, you can't invalidate it, right? And when people ask you, oh, so how are you doing it? And I just smile and I just tell them these and these, but can you make the sacrifice? Can you pay the price? Can you pay the price? Can you make the sacrifice? Can you drive yourself the way I drive myself? Can you do this and do that and do this job and all of that? So and most times people will respect you because they will now want to work based on your terms. Again, there's another job a client had given me. I think that should be mid last month. Because I mean, it can't be a priority for me, because when I looked at the brief, I knew that this man is not going to need this thing for the next 2 months. He's not going to need it for the next 2 months, even though he didn't tell me, but I've made my own findings. And I don't want him to put me under pressure. And I don't want my deliverable to also have a poor outcome. So I put it on waiting list. And guess what? Since I did not prioritize it, do you know that that man has not called me in the past 3 weeks? He has not even a text message to say how far with the brief I gave you. So when I'm telling you that some of these things, it's like the force of nature recognizes, the way you position your life. This thing is very spiritual, and I don't just want to be talking spiritual jargons to us here, but life in itself is very spiritual. Whatever you condition your life to is what the force of nature, comply with, not the other way around. If you work the other way around, you can't be as highly productive as you're supposed to be in life. So that's going to be the summary of this principle. So what are those 4 key productive hacks I want to share with you? Of course, time management is very, very important. Very, very, very important. We cannot overemphasize that, because everything in life is bounded in time. It's only if you are not living on Earth where you have gravity. Even places where there is no gravity, they still have measurement of time. So everything, all your tasks, all these activities, all these your prioritization, everything are bounded in time. They have time duration, either in lifetime or within short period of time durations, which we call sprints, or you call them iterations, right? So you can visit back all the different tools and techniques I shared with you in time management for you to be able to see how to leverage on creating some kind of track of productivity for yourself. Of course, distractions, this is more of internal decisions you need to make for yourself. And you can help yourself even from this very night. What are those things that have not really given you opportunity to give attention to following through the class? Yes, you have time for every other thing, but not this one. So you need to get your priority right in order for you to be able to determine distraction. There is always something that is more important or most important at every point in time. So for these 40 days, are you saying this journey is part of your important list or is part of your prioritization? Every other thing that is below it, you need to give less time and attention to it. Um, Normally, this 1 hour, 1 hour, 30 minutes, there's something else I will have been doing. But I just said apart that these 30 days, anytime we go into the session, I put off all my phones either in flight mode or I put them in vibration. I don't touch the phones. So anybody that calls or I mean they can't just reach me during that. So this is what it means for you to avoid distraction. Now for you to have full attention to your priorities. Either you are multitasking or you are working on monotask. Then you also have to use a proper work environment, right? You need to use a proper work environment maybe in your office or if you're working at home, you need to create the ambience that can help you have full concentration. Okay. There are certain things, maybe you need to change the type of chair you are using. Sometimes you have to walk around, so you need to create that space. Sometimes you need to take a nap for 5 minutes when you are doing your Pomodoro. Maybe you just need to grab a coffee. So you need to create that kind of environment. If you think that you have a TV in your office and it's always a distraction, you have to put it off. It's one of the things I did in my own home. Usually when I come because I like watching football sometimes, especially if Barcelona is playing, so sometimes I just discipline myself like, no, I'm not watching. Let me, this is more, is I, at best, once the game is over, I can go and check and know what the scores are, So I mean, so these are part of things that you need to do within your home. Sometimes you might want to also put some kind of carbon boards around for you to be able to see your task. And then rather than just keeping everything in your head and you don't miss your task to perform. So you put wall marks, you put sticker notes around and all of that. Then the final one has to do with leveraging on technology. There is no end to you learning technology. Keep learning, keep laying your hands on trying new things. Today alone, I've tried 2 new tools, which I can see that, I mean, they are pretty much better than some of the ones I've been using before. So I would rather go and look on how to learn to use them better or basically just find a way to integrate them into what I have already. So every day you can learn new technology, by just researching, finding out alternatives. Sometimes I just go on YouTube or I go on Google. I just type alternative to this tool, like alternative to Slack, alternative to ChatGPT and all of that. It will bring you list of other well-optimized tools that you can use and see the benefits. Sometimes you might even ask for the comparison. You have a note to compare what is good in this, what is not in this, what is in that. So just learn it and you keep getting better at it, get better at it, and you see how much of result you're going to get at the end of the day. So this video I'm not going to play. I'll share because of time. It's more like about 4 minute video, but I'm not going to play. It's just to give you other hacks. So I rather prefer that you watch it on your own and then see some of the other hacks that the guy is going to talk about. I know he's going to mention about multitasking, but put it in view of some of the things I've shared with you so that you can learn. Okay. Um, I'm going to advise because you are dealing with yourself, make sure you take good care of yourself. Very, very, very important. Sometime last year, when I saw that I wasn't taking very good care of myself, especially in terms of eating habits, what I did was just to find a way to seek counsel and seek advice, get a nutritionist who took me on about 2 months journey, on how to cultivate proper and good habits in eating. And that helped me. I mean, I managed that at the end of last year, right? which part of the knowledge I gained is still there. So you know yourself more than any person will know you. So make sure you keep fit, make sure you retain good health, and know when to step back, right? There's no crime. I know when to call everything off, and shut myself in a home and then have a recess, So just make sure you determine all of these things so that you can always reset and reprioritize and also, increase your productivity. I'll skip this and then end with tips for long-term success. One, your goals, always refine them. Always refine them. Refine them in the sense that once you check what you have achieved, put it back in your backlog. Put it in your done log that you have completed, your completion note. The ones that you have not finished, like those ones that are below in priority, you have to now reprioritize. That's what I mean by refining. The ones you've done, you take them out of the list, then you refine, you reprioritize to know what are the other ones. And if you think that these things are more like an ambitious goals, you have to then break them down into smaller chunks. For instance, if I realize that pushing myself to the limit of doing 2 programs at the same time is an ambitious goal, I would break it down like, okay, rather than just doing the second one full blown, let me just do the 3 months pre-course and then defer the main course. So when I'm done with this, after all, whatever knowledge I learned in the pre-course is still going to stay with you. So you need to know yourself and then be able to have clarity on how you want to pursue your goals and keep reviewing over and over again and see how you're performing, because your review will enable you to reposition for you to be able to optimize your performance and then learn how to adapt to changes. Things are changing every day. Tools are changing. Technologies are changing. Don't be fixed in the old ways of doing things. I know some of us might have not read about the new disruption happening in the artificial intelligence industry, AI industry. You need to learn and keep learning on a daily basis, so that because that's learning is one of the things that will enable your adaptability skill. And that's why there's a session that we're going to talk more about learning. So whatever your aspirations, whatever your pursuit are around how to acquire new knowledge, you're going to have more intimate conversation around that. Okay, so this brings us to the final end, and I hope I've been able to impress some of these principles that work for me on you, and I hope I've not been able to convince you in things that you've always have a premonition or orientation about, thinking that this is how you can actually increase your productivity. So I need a feedback, I need comments, I need questions, or maybe you want to take some subtraction. Please, let's engage. Thank you. And please feel free, you can ask me any personal question as well, because this is to be seen from a personal perspective, because it's about personal productivity. So do you have any pain points at work for us to narrow down this conversation into critical areas?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Please go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, I had a you mentioned like kind of earlier on in the session about transient situations and compromise. What did you mean by that?
Okay, so when you're talking about compromise, right? It appears in different forms depending on the scenario. For me, most times, what compromise means might be that you're actually going to make sacrifice. Basically, you're going to make sacrifice. I'll give you a very good example. In business, you have about 3 different clients who are going to give you job. They've given you brief, and potentially is going to turn into a real project for you. You don't have the capacity to do 3 at the same time, and these are your high profile clients. So how do you kind of like determine which one or which ones you should do? Or are you going to take it and outsource, of which the contract might mean that you can't outsource? So how do you do that? I just give you a critical scenario because sometimes I encounter this a lot. Initially, what I used to do, like previous years, what I used to do is I'll sit down, even though some of them will not like no. Don't forget, these things are based on your integrity. These things are based on your level of trust that you have attained with these people for them to come to you. So sometimes with them walking away without getting your acceptance might mean that they may not come back. So you also stand the risk of that, of losing the clientele on project. So usually what I do, I mean, in past, I mean, bluntly, I'll just tell them because I also don't want to lose my integrity. Take something that at the end of the day I will not be able to do. So I'll just tell them point blank, sorry, because of ABCD with excuses or with reasons. ABCD, except this can wait till this time, blah, 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 and all of that. But guess what? I started thinking outside the box that, oh, I can actually make certain sacrifices in terms of if the reason why I can't do two, three jobs at the same time, right, is because I'm making a high profit, meaning that maybe I have five people naturally that are supposed to do the work. So five people will use 5 days, and then it's after the 5 days. So why don't I double that, right, and reduce my profits without increasing the costs or the budget or whatever is going to take the client to execute the project, for us to execute the project. So for me, that is a way for me to make compromise on my profit margin or my scales of fees and all of that. Sometimes I might even go to the point of doing some of these things pro bono, if you get what I mean. And not every professional will do that. In fact, they will even tell you that he's unprofessional. Some people will tell you he's unprofessional to do that. But hey, like I said, there are principles that you need to cultivate because at the end of the day, it's even also a way for you to upskill, which I'm telling you about multitasking. Because multitasking sometimes doesn't necessarily mean that you, as an individual, has to be the one doing all the jobs. It can simply mean that you are actually executing the job with an extension. The extension can be technology, the extension can be another person you are delegating the job to doing it on your behalf, right? But you are the tax owner. You are the one getting the job done. But someone else is doing it on your behalf. So it can also be seen technically like so. It comes in different scenarios. Likewise, it might mean that you have to, compromise on certain habits, right? Maybe part of your habit is you have to just change your eating habits. If you eat 3 times a day, in order for you to be able to do some task that will require you just to eat twice or once a day, you just have to do it. You have to compromise on sleep without compromising on your health status. I mean, so these are kind of stuff that I mean by you compromising in order for you to do more or for you to be able to be more productive and is all encompassing. I don't know if that answered the question.
Yes, thank you, doctor.
Okay, excellent. Any other question? Any other pain points? Are there other issues in your daily chores? So besides the other one I've given you, there's another um, assignment that I'm going to attach to this, and that's for you to, okay, I've mentioned it about habit management. So I'm going to share an habit tracker with you, which you are going to use to track your habit for a whole week. So throughout next week, when we are looking at uh, the the W factor, right? Because now I believe you are now going to start laying your hands, trying out some of these things practically. So one of the things you're going to do next week is now for you to practically assess your habit and see how some of these habits has to change. I mean, I'm not going to tell you what's going to change, but you will see it yourself by the time you start doing the tracking. I don't know if anybody had ever done that before, but with the tool I'm going to give you, you're able to use it to track. So the assignment is not something you have to do today, but I'm giving it in this session, and you have to start it from next week, from Monday all the way down to Saturday. You're going to be tracking your habits, and then you submit the assessment at the end of the day for me to be able to review. Is that taken? Are we together, everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So any question, any contribution so that we can end here? Have I impressed any new idea to you on productivity? Do you see areas where you can really do things differently and come back to tell us how it works out? So all these books I'm giving you, you can even do a try on it and see whether you can read two books at the same time. It's funny, right? Okay, so if nobody is giving any comment, feedback, I think we'll stop here.